Okay, so get this. Today we're diving into a world where the Ottoman Empire never fell apart.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. And not only did it survive, it thrived. It's like, picture this powerful blend of their old traditions but with futuristic advancements,
Hmm.
all the way into the 21st century.
Okay, so where are we getting this from?
So there's this super interesting essay that lays out this whole alternate timeline. And I gotta say, it really makes you think, what if history had taken a totally different turn?
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Right. So to kick things off, the essay takes us back to Suleiman the Magnificent, that whole golden age of the Ottomans.
Right, right. Like huge expansion, amazing architecture.
Exactly. They were stretching from the Balkans all the way to the Persian Gulf, a massive empire with all these different cultures and languages, and incredible architecture like the Suleimani Mosque.
And in our timeline, it all eventually crumbled, right? Like all those regions, Egypt, Algeria, Iraq, even parts of Europe, they broke off and became the countries we know today.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. But in this alternate timeline, it's like Suleiman's era wasn't the peak, but just the foundation for centuries of success.
Okay, so how does this empire actually function in the 21st century? What makes it so powerful?
Well, first off, their location. Always been strategically important.
Right, controlling key trade routes like the Silk Road and those crucial maritime passages.
Imagine Istanbul. Not just some historical city, but like a mega city. A global hub connecting Europe and Asia, kind of like a modern-day Singapore or Hong Kong.
Wow, I can picture it. The energy, the trade.
Right. But they're not just stuck in the past. The essay mentions that they went all in on technology, especially renewable energy.
Makes sense. In the 21st century, sustainability equals power.
Exactly. So they invested heavily in solar, wind energy, not just for the environment, but to become a leader in those fields.
Think about it. If a major power like them had prioritized this centuries ago, our energy landscape would be totally different.
It really makes you think, okay, so we've got geography, trade, clean energy. But what about the people living there? What's life like in this alternate Turkey?
Well, the essay emphasizes social welfare. They're big on equitable wealth distribution.
So not the crazy gap between rich and poor we see so often.
Yeah, they avoided that, partly because of how they mixed their economic systems. Like they kept their traditional land-based economy, agriculture, and all that, but blended it with Islamic financial principles like
Wait, like what?
things called waqfs.
Waqfs. So what are those?
They're like charitable trusts. They've been using them for centuries in Islamic societies. Think of it as a way to fund public services and support those who need it.
Oh, okay. Like a mix of a community fund and public endowment.
Exactly. And combined with their tax system, wealth gets reinvested back into society, supporting education, healthcare, infrastructure.
So it's not just about getting rich,
Yeah.
but using that wealth for the good of everyone. That's a pretty big contrast to, the me first attitude you see at a lot of places today. Okay, so we get their economy and social structure, but what about the government? How do you run a centuries-old empire in the modern world?
Now that's where things get interesting. They came up with this system that blends tradition and modernity in a really unique way.
Okay, I'm hearing.
It's a constitutional monarchy. So you have the Sultan, a descendant of Suleiman, right?
Okay.
They're like a figurehead, a symbol of their history and unity. But the real power is with a democratically elected parliament.
So they vote.
Oh, yeah. They have a prime minister, a whole legislature representing all the different parts of the empire.
So it's not about clinging to the past, but making tradition relevant today.
Exactly. And the essay argues that it's worked really well. The Sultan provides continuity and cohesion, while the parliament keeps the government in touch with the people and the changing world.
I can almost see it. Like you have the Sultan's procession with all the pomp and ceremony, and then also these intense debates in parliament. Two worlds colliding, but somehow working together.
It's more than just the political system, though. This blend of old and new is everywhere in their culture.
So like walking through Istanbul, you might see minarets next to skyscrapers, ancient bazaars alongside these high-tech hubs.
Precisely. And their art scene is like that, too. Traditional art forms like Ottoman miniature painting didn't disappear. They evolved, taking in modern, abstract elements. Their galleries are up there with the best in the world.
So they didn't have to sacrifice their heritage to progress. That's really cool.
That-
Okay, so what about their language? Did Ottoman Turkish survive in this modern world?
It did, but not by staying frozen in time. They modernized the script, embraced how language naturally changes.
So they didn't let it become a dead language.
Nope. It's like how we still appreciate Shakespeare but don't talk like that anymore. Their language is living, breathing, evolving.
It connects their past to their present and future.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. It seems like everything about this alternate empire is about finding that balance between tradition and progress.
You got it. And that's super clear in how they approach education. They took their traditional madrasas, which were mainly focused on religious stuff,
Right.
and they transformed them into world-class universities.
So instead of just dogma, they're teaching critical thinking, science, the humanities.
Exactly. They haven't abandoned their faith, but they realized that to succeed in the 21st century, you need a well-rounded education. And it's worked. They're producing leading scientists, artists, thinkers.
Wow. It's like looking in a mirror, but the reflection is both familiar and totally different. It really makes you think about how things could have been.
It challenges our whole idea of how history had to happen, doesn't it? Makes you wonder, what if our world had adopted some of these principles of balance and sustainability?
Yeah. Big questions to ponder. But we've only scratched the surface. We've talked about what's going on inside this empire. But what about their place in the world? How do they interact with other nations? What's their global influence?
Now that's where things get even more interesting. You're totally right. We've barely begun to explore this whole alternate reality. So let's zoom out a bit. Like, what's their role on the global stage? How does this Ottoman Empire shape the world in the 21st century?
Well, the essay describes them as not just powerful, but a force for stability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a world that's often chaotic and unpredictable.
Think about it. They haven't been bogged down by the same internal divisions and struggles that so many other countries face.
Right.
They've had centuries to build this solid, resilient society.
Makes sense.
One that's not easily swayed by extremist ideologies or the kind of nationalism that we've seen lead to conflict in our timeline.
So they're not just a major player because of their military or economy.
Right.
It's because they have this whole different approach to global affairs, one that's more about diplomacy, understanding different cultures, and thinking long-term.
Exactly. They've had all this time to cultivate relationships, build trust across continents, and being in that unique position, bridging East and West, they can act as a mediator in a world that often seems so divided.
Almost like the world's wise elders, you know, the voice of reason when everyone else is arguing.
That's a great way to put it. And the essay suggests they've actually been able to prevent some of the major conflicts that happen in our timeline.
Oh, wow. Like what?
Well, imagine if the Arab-Israeli conflict had been resolved peacefully, or the Syrian civil war never escalated.
That's a pretty powerful thought.
But
A world where diplomacy and peace actually win out.
it is. Of course, we can't just assume this alternate Ottoman Empire is perfect. Every empire, no matter how well-intentioned, will face challenges, you know.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There will be internal pressures, maybe even abuses of power that we can't fully grasp from where we are.
Right. But even with those caveats, I think there's a lot we can learn from thinking about this.
Definitely. It makes you question what could have been if different choices were made, different paths taken, and it highlights the possibility of a different kind of world order.
One where power isn't just about military strength or economic dominance.
But about cooperation, building bridges, finding common ground.
Exactly. It's about strength through preventing conflict, resolving things peacefully.
And this alternate Ottoman Empire, with all its history and its commitment to peaceful coexistence, it kind of offers a model for that, doesn't it?
It does. But let's shift gears for a bit and talk about something I find really fascinating: technology. The essay mentions they've made amazing advances in areas like AI, renewable energy, even space exploration.
It does seem kind of paradoxical. You'd think a civilization so rooted in tradition might resist such rapid technological change.
Right, it's this common idea that tradition and innovation can't coexist. But this alternate empire shows they can actually enhance each other.
So their understanding of the past gives them a different perspective on the present and the future.
Exactly. They've got this long-term vision. They're not just chasing the latest trends. They're building something that will last. And that leads them to invest in technologies that are sustainable, beneficial to everyone, and in line with their values.
Okay, so what are some concrete examples of these achievements? What does the future look like in this timeline?
Well, like we discussed earlier, they're way ahead in renewable energy. Their cities run on solar and wind power. Their industries are clean. They even export clean energy to other parts of the world.
Wow.
Imagine the Middle East, not known for oil and conflict, but as a hub for renewable energy, powering Europe, Asia, Africa.
That's a pretty amazing image.
And that's not all. They've also made incredible strides in artificial intelligence.
Oh, interesting.
But instead of using it mainly for automation or profit, they've focused on AI that improves human capabilities, solves complex problems, makes life better for everyone.
So they're not afraid of AI taking over.
Not at all. They see it as a tool for good. They've developed systems that help with everything from urban planning and traffic to healthcare and education.
Wow. Imagine a world without traffic jams, with personalized learning for every student. AI helping doctors make faster, more accurate diagnoses.
It's like technology is truly serving humanity in this alternate world.
Okay, so we've got clean energy, advanced AI.
Yeah.
What about space? Have they reached for the stars?
They have. They've got a thriving space program. Astronauts doing research on the International Space Station, probes exploring the solar system, even plans for a manned mission to Mars.
So they're not just content with mastering Earth, they're pushing the boundaries of human exploration.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of international cooperation. Their space program isn't just a national thing, it's a global effort. Scientists and engineers from all over the world working together.
It shows that even in a different timeline, our shared humanity, our thirst for knowledge, our desire to explore, those things remain constant.
Beautifully put. And it's those shared aspirations that link this alternate timeline to our own world, reminding us that despite our differences, we all share a common future.
It's a powerful thought. But before we get lost in the stars, let's bring it back down to Earth, to the here and now.
Good idea.
We've talked about the politics, economics, culture, technology of this alternate Ottoman Empire, but I want to make it more personal.
I like that. It's easy to focus on the big picture of history, but it's the individual stories that really connect with us.
Exactly. So let's talk about the people who live in this timeline. What are their lives like? What are their hopes, their dreams? How does living in this empire shape who they are? All right, so we're back, diving deeper into this world where the Ottoman Empire never faded away. We've talked about how they mix tradition and progress, their global role, their tech advancements. But now I want to get a feel for what it's actually like to live there, in this alternate Turkey.
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. The essay talks about how diverse this society is, with people from so many backgrounds, ethnicities, religions, all living together.
Right. I mean, think about it. This empire has spanned continents for centuries. It's absorbed influences from everywhere, the Balkans, the Middle East, North Africa. It's like a giant melting pot.
Exactly. But somehow they've avoided the kind of ethnic and religious conflicts that we've seen in our timeline.
It makes you wonder, how did they manage that? What's their secret?
I think it has a lot to do with this strong sense of Ottoman identity. Like, they haven't forgotten their individual roots, but they also see themselves as part of this larger whole, something that embraces all those differences.
So it's like you can be proud of your Irish heritage, for example, but also be fully American. The two aren't in conflict.
Exactly. And in this alternate Ottoman Empire, that sense of shared identity is everywhere. Like, it's built into their education system, their culture, even their government.
Right. So it's not like those differences are being used to divide people or gain political power. Instead, they're channeled into a system that's all about dialogue, compromise, working together.
Right. And it makes for a very resilient society.
Yeah.
One that's adaptable, open to new ideas, a place where people from different backgrounds can collaborate and achieve common goals.
I can just picture the debates in their parliament, all those different perspectives clashing. It doesn't seem like a society that avoids disagreement, but rather sees it as part of how you move forward.
Exactly. But of course, life isn't all about politics and grand ideas. So what about daily life for people? What are they striving for? What are their joys and struggles?
Right. What's it actually like to live there?
Well, the essay points out a few things, like they really emphasize family and community.
So even with all the modern advancements, they haven't lost those core values.
Nope. Family ties are strong, and community plays a huge role in people's lives.
It sounds like they found a balance between the individualism you often see in the West and the collectivism of many Eastern cultures.
Yeah, it's a nice mix, and you see this in their approach to work-life balance, too. They work hard, but they also value their free time, spending time with loved ones, pursuing their hobbies.
I can almost picture those warm summer evenings, families out in the park, having picnics, enjoying music together.
Exactly. And this focus on quality of life extends to their cities. Like, Istanbul is this amazing blend of ancient history and modern life. But even their smaller cities and towns are designed with people in mind. Lots of green spaces, good public transport, a vibrant cultural scene.
It's like they've avoided the downsides of big cities.
Yeah.
You get the excitement and opportunity, but you're not isolated or stuck in traffic all the time.
Right, but of course, no place is perfect. Even in this seemingly ideal world, there are still problems.
Like what?
The essay acknowledges that there are still issues with inequality, discrimination, people in power taking advantage of others.
So it's not utopia, but it does seem like a more just, more equitable society than what we often see today.
Yeah, I'd say so. They haven't figured out all of humanity's problems, but they've created a system that encourages progress, open communication, and puts the well-being of its people first.
It's a vision of what's possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we prioritize collaboration, sustainability, and respect for both our shared history and our individual differences.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most important takeaways from exploring this alternate timeline.
It's not about wishing for a different past or some perfect future.
It's about looking at it as a mirror, reflecting on our own choices, and seeing the potential we have to make the world better, starting now.
So it's a reminder that we have the power to shape our own future, to learn from history, and to build a world that reflects our best selves.
And in that sense, maybe this alternate Ottoman Empire isn't so alternate after all. Maybe it's a reflection of our own potential, you know?
It shows that the future isn't set in stone. We have the ability to create the world we want to live in. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a question. If you could visit this alternate Turkey, what would you be most curious to experience? The bustling streets of Istanbul, the art, the technology, or maybe just that unique blend of tradition and progress that seems to be everywhere.
It's a fascinating thought. Let that image stay with you as you go about your day. Think about the choices we make, the path we're on, and the kind of future we want to create together.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey into a different reality. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.